Hi guys, this is Mark. In this video we'll be exploring a technique for retrieving location data from the database when the user pans or zooms the map component. This is a fairly common technique that is used in a variety of different applications. For instance, examples of Airbnb or Yelp come to mind where they have that functionality for retrieving location information about points of interest. And exactly the same thing is definitely possible with UI Builder, codeless and backendless. Let's talk about the actual setup first, specifically how the data is organized on the server side. I'm switching to backend, and in here we'll select the city table. And in the city table we have a collection of various cities with the location information captured in the location column. The location column is of the point data type, which is designed to work out of the box with Google Maps whenever you use that component in UI Builder. So the use case will be to move the map around and grab data that is in the viewport of the map. Let's go back to the actual app. I have already put it together and is working. Let me demonstrate it first, and then we will talk about the actual implementation of what it takes to make it happen. And from the user experience perspective, it is very straightforward. So we can move the map around, we can zoom out, go to a different continent, and start zooming in, and we get the data that is in the current viewport. So if, for instance, let's just zoom in on Austria and load everything that is in there. So as you can see here, there are just 3 cities. This one is in a neighboring country, but it works quite well because the query that is composed by the client side is just handled by the server, where the server just returns a collection of all the cities that exist in the current viewport. So how does it work? To understand how it works, you would need to know the structure of a where clause, of a special format in the where clause that is designed to retrieve spatial data. As a point of reference, if you go to backend, and if you enable the visualize checkbox on the location data, you will be getting the data that is rendered in the table here on the map. However, down below you will see that there is a checkbox that says map driven navigation. So if you select this checkbox and you start moving your map around, then what's going to happen is exactly the same behavior that we programmed in a UI Builder to retrieve the data is already built into Backendless Console. Not only that, but Backendless Console actually generates this where clause down below right here, and if you click on it, it is copied into the clipboard. So here you can actually get a sample of the where clause that needs to be generated in order to search within a particular viewport. However, what I'm going to do is, rather than analyzing how this one is structured with all these specific numbers, which are very long and might be confusing, what I will do is I will describe the actual process of building that where clause and the format of it using this map right here. So whenever you need to build a where clause that retrieves data from the server, you need to compose a polygon in WKT format. And I will not spend a whole lot on WKT. It stands for well-known text, which is a standard format that could describe various geospatial objects such as points, line strings, and polygons. So in here, the trick is going to be to describe a polygon, which is the current viewport. Whenever you move the map around, change the zoom and so on, you get the coordinates of 2 points on the map, which really can be used to define that polygon. And those 2 points are going to be northeast, which is the coordinates of this point right here. And the second one is the southwest, which is going to be this one right here. And these coordinates contain both latitude and longitude for northeast and southwest. So in order to build that polygon, what we are going to do, you will need to grab latitude and longitude of the northeast point, and you will need to grab latitude and longitude of the southwest point. Once you have these coordinates, what you will need to do is you will take longitude of northeast and latitude of northeast. Then you will take the longitude of northeast and latitude, which latitude is the horizontal direction. So you will take the latitude of southwest. Then you will move on to this point, and here it's going to be a longitude of southwest and latitude of southwest. And then you will move on to this point, and this one is going to be longitude of southwest and latitude of northeast. And then to complete this polygon, you come back to this point, and once again, it's longitude of northeast and latitude of northeast. Once you have these four coordinates, then you essentially compose that where clause. And that where clause goes like this. You put the special keyword called within, and then you provide the parameters. And the parameters is going to be the name of the column. In our case, it's location, comma, followed by the entire polygon definition in single quotes. And then in the end, you say equals true. So basically, that query instructs backendless to find all the objects where the location property, and the location property is the point, is within defined polygon. So if it is equals true, then that object, that city object, will be returned back to your application. Now that you understand the structure of that where clause, if we take a look at the actual logic that sits in this map component, we have this onPan event. And what you see here is exactly what I just described. So as you can see, we created four variables: northeast, latitude, northeast, longitude, same thing for southwest. And then you can see that these 2 points are actually provided to you whenever this event happens. So from these 2 points, we extract latitude and longitude. And this block right here, this create text block, builds that where clause in the format exactly as I just described. Once you have this where clause, then what we do is we run a database query with that where clause against the city table. Whatever this returns, we put it into page data property found places. Okay, and then after that, in the markers logic, we check if found places is null, then there are no markers. If it is not null, we use the special block called pluck of collection, and it is available in the lists subcategory. So here you will see this pluck of collection. And what this does is it goes through the collection of found places, through every single element in that collection, and it takes the value for the location property, and it builds a new collection that contains the objects inside of location, which is exactly what markers are. And by doing so, we get the behavior that you have seen right here, where essentially just we get all the markers, all the points for the data that is returned for the current viewport. What if we want to visualize the actual cities? Well, it's going to be fairly straightforward. So let's grab data table and put it right under the map. So here's our data table. Let's connect this data table to the city table. Configure the columns because we don't want to display some system level columns such as object ID and create it, update it, and then put the name to be first, perhaps population right after, district and location. Yeah, why not? Let's keep it in there. So for this data table, if we go to the bindings and then where clause, we can say where clause value. Okay, so this where clause value is the name of the property. And since we already built this where clause in the map, we have this where clause var, which is variable. What we can do is we can put this where clause var into page data. And the property was where clause value. And let's take this variable, which is where clause var. And what this will do is it will instruct data table to load the data, same data that we're loading for the map. Let's see how well this works. So now as we pan and zoom, we get the markers. And for instance, let's zoom in on Texas just to get all the data from Texas. So as you can see here, all the Texas cities that are being fetched and represented as markers for our current viewport. So as you can see, this is actually quite straightforward. The most important thing is to understand how this query works. And in fact, in our API documentation, it is also described just to guide you of where you can find it. If you go to our docs, for instance, for JavaScript, and open up the database section and go into spatial data in database. For the retrieval API, here you will see the where clause operators, and here is this within operator that describes exactly what we did in our UI Builder application. I hope you find this useful. This is perhaps a little bit more involved and complex than what we did in other videos. However, the usefulness of this is way greater than centering the map or controlling the zoom. But I think most of these operations perhaps are equally important anyway. Really, it will really vary between applications. Anyway, thanks for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. And as always, happy codeless coding.